connecting. Okay.
Okay.
All right,
All
we're
right.
live. It was
Here
a
we
close
are.
call. We
That
had
was
some
totally
technical
harrowing.
difficulties.
I know.
We did it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So today I wanted
Mhm.
to talk about so we got our regular email from Anne Trubeck from her notes. What's it called? Notes from a Small Press?
Notes from a Small Press.
Yeah, which is an excellent Substack, as
Yeah.
you and I know.
She's the publisher of Belt Publishing,
Right.
which is a press focusing on work focused on the Rust Belt, but it's not the Rust Belt. It's
Right.
Belt.
Yeah, but that part of the country. And so she's very smart, as we know. And so, often one of us will get her Substack and send it to the other one and be like, look, and highlight a thing and say, yes, this is just what we were talking about. And the other one will say, yes, I was going to message you that. And so this week we didn't get to do that because we've been freaking busy. I mean, not that we're not freaking busy every week, but I thought, I wanted to talk to you about some stuff about it.
Yeah, because sort of uncharacteristically
talks
this
about.
week, when I read it, I didn't have an immediate reaction. I had a vague reaction, but not a specific way in, but you did.
Yeah, well, so, I mean, as usual, it resonated. So this piece, she's saying she's going to be giving a talk at a symposium on the topic of publishing as an art. And even before I continued reading to see what she was talking about or what she was going to talk about on her symposium was what is an art? Right away, I was like, publishing as an art form, but publishing is a process. And usually when you talk about an art form, you're talking about sort of the end result. So like the book as an art object. And so I was curious as I was reading, like, what was she going to be zeroing in on as the process of publishing being an art? And at first she talked about she was talking about how presses can develop a sense of self or an entity, a recognizable element. So people say that's, your example that you give is a Fitzcarraldo book, for example. But she started out bringing
she gave that example too.
She gave that example too. But what she was talking about was, once again, initially in this part of her Substack, the form, saying, okay, the Fitzcarraldo books all have a certain look, right? The covers is a certain uniformity, so you can see it across the shelf or whatever across the room and say that's a Fitzcarraldo book. And she mentioned a couple of other presses, and I know that you and I had talked about that, but ultimately, while our books they all have the same format,
like trim size,
thank you, trim size, and they all have the GP, there's certain elements, but the covers don't scream Galliot Press because they're each very unique.
Right.
So then I was like, okay, well, that's not publishing as an art. That's a different thing. But then she went on to talk about how agents these days are taking on a lot of the work of editing. And she talked about how a friend of hers was an agent, said, I try to get a book as close as possible, as ready to go and as close to done. And that's where it became interesting to me in what Anne had to say, is that the more agents get involved in this process, which they're doing because a lot of publishing houses are pulling back from doing in-depth editing.
Right.
But the more agents do that, the more they're the ones doing the work of shaping the book. And then it's like, well, it doesn't matter which imprint you're going to, because they're more interchangeable. You're presenting them with a package that's already shaped. Yeah, and so I was curious your thoughts on that, and we can talk a little bit about sort of what we do with our books and what's the art that we're bringing to our books.
Yeah, and I think I would disagree with her a little bit on that, because I think that I've never been an agent, but I've worked with them, and I would think that when you're shaping a book, if you're an agent, you have a particular market in mind. So it's not going to be generic. If you're shaping a book, you're thinking, I know the editors I want to pitch for this. And so you're already going to be thinking about the house wait, let me back up. You're saying that the agents want to receive it ready to go. No, you're saying that
No, I'm
they
saying the
want it
editor,
ready
that
to go.
agents are
They're going to
feeling like
make it ready to
editors want to
go.
receive it ready to go.
But see, yes, I'll go back to what I was saying originally. I think that I see her point, but I disagree with it a little bit, because I do think that that agents will have particular editors in mind. And so they're going to think like, oh, this is a Ballantine book, so we're going to shape it for that kind of market. And it's not just going to be the one editor at Ballantine. It's going to be people like that editor. So I guess I agree with her on the larger concept, which may not be maybe where you were going, but the larger concept of the work of editing is an art.
The work of editing is absolutely an art.
Yeah.
But she was talking about the publishing houses having a very important, like being crucial to that process, and how what she's seeing is that they're getting less involved overall. This is generalizations, of course. There's plenty of editors at lots of publishing houses that are very involved.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, broadly speaking, and we've heard this from friends of ours who are agents as well, that they're doing a lot of work to get the book to whatever level they feel is like even closer to quote
The
unquote
agents
done.
do a ton of editing.
Yeah. And so, but then again, I mean, yes, they're sending it to editors that they have in mind, but they're also sending it to many editors, sometimes 20 or 30. And there's not going to be like whoever editor, if you had given that same manuscript in its sort of raw form as it landed in the agent's inbox, and you gave it to those 30 editors or 15 editors, it would end up as a different product. There would be 15 different products, right?
That's true.
So there's a funneling taking place so that the impact that the editor can have at Ballantine versus Mira versus whatever is smaller. There's less differentiation.
And she starts out by saying agents are, or maybe that's the headline of the piece, the agents have become publishers.
Are the new editors, right?
I think she says they're the new publishers. I feel like
the
we've
new
known for a while that agents are editors, but yeah, where the piece resonated with me, and it sort of took me some time to process it. As I said, I didn't have the ready response where I was like, Anjali, this, boom, was thinking about editing as an art form, because I know you and I feel like when we're editing and we write up the editorial letter, like I feel like the thing that I give the writer, the editorial letter, which is like 5 or 6 single space pages,
it's a piece of art in its own way.
It's a piece of art. That and the whole track changes document is a thing. And I just was on the receiving end of that, having given a manuscript of mine to a mutual friend of ours for her overview, her assessment for me. She did me a huge favor. And I said to her, and this is before the Anne Trubeck piece, but I said, this is a work of art. What you have given me is a work of art.
I have letters from editors too that it's like, whoa.
Yeah, it was like this long, thoughtful letter. It was a work of art. And the marginal comments on the document were part of that work of art. So yeah, and it's a funny thing, because we don't, like, in the history of publishing, and this may say more about me than the history of publishing, but I can name you one editor by name, right? Maxwell Perkins.
Right, and you brought that up, right? I could be the Maxwell Perkins of a certain manuscript.
Yeah, like you want to be that, or I mean, Ezra Pound was another one who, in his role with The Wasteland, right? He is said to have immensely shaped that poem. So he was acting as editor for T.S. Eliot. But Maxwell Perkins is kind of the legend,
of course, yeah. If it's had the Maxwell Perkins fairy dust on it, it has a
yeah, exactly. But editors often, I mean, think how many books are out there, how many books are published every year. We don't know those editors' names the way we should. They're not household names.
No. But it's interesting because I feel like in some, I'm thinking of cinema and
I was just
directors. Directors
like, the
are
directors.
Known. Yeah.
But do you know the cinematographer?
No.
Well, yeah.
I don't. My daughter does, because she's really into film.
Nestor Almendros, who was a cinematographer a nice Greek boy. This is what, yeah. I always used to look for the Greek names in the
Yeah.
credits. I still do with my daughter. But yeah, we know the directors, we know the auteurs, right?
Yeah.
But in publishing, we don't tend to know the editors, and what they do is art.
Yes, it is. And one of the things that, well, so is a cinematographer's role, do you feel like that sort of is the direct line between shaping a film and shaping a manuscript?
I don't know, because I don't.
Why are there bubbles?
Bubble.
There are bubbles coming out my.
You get
Okay,
bubbles. I don't know. I think I don't understand clearly enough the distinction between those two. I mean, I've read some screenplays and I care about cinema, but I don't think that I have a handle on who gets to say where the shot is like Joe Wright, the Dunkirk shot in Atonement, that
is that not the director?
Was that him, or was it his cinematographer who did the 7-minute long?
I don't know. Now I feel like I need to read up more on sort of the role of the director versus the cinematographer.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing, I feel it's pretty rare that people know the translators. There's famous,
right. I can tell you one.
There's Emily
Gregory Rabassa, the translator of Gabriel Garcia Marquez.
So there are a few, and there's in works that have been translated many times, like the Odyssey, there's Emily, what's her name? Wilson. So it's like, I'm reading the Emily Wilson traduction. I was going to say traduction, translation.
Or the husband, Pevier, the husband and wife team who did the Anna Karenina like 15-20 years ago. There was a new Anna Karenina translation.
But so I wonder,
Pevier, I think.
I don't know. I wonder if this translates to readers. I'm curious if sort of your average reader, whatever the heck that means, is aware of how much goes into the book, after the author has written it.
Right.
And how much of a sort of team effort it is to get it to its final not final resting place.
I forget where I had this conversation the other day, and somebody made the joke. There's a couple of us sort of said at the same time, I'm a bit of a writer myself. Like, that's the line that you hear, and it's like, well, we're all just a bit of a writer.
Right.
The editor is also a bit of a writer, and then the translator, whoever. All of these things come together to make the book.
And then there's the copy editor, right? Because I also feel like they're contributing to the writing. They're making it clearer. They're making it smoother. They're picking up on inconsistencies. I mean, that's a big part of it too. And they're completely unsung heroes.
Yeah.
Copy editors. They're not even listed anywhere really in the book.
Well, they're listed usually, if you're a good citizen, in the acknowledgments.
Even if you're a good citizen, you might not even think of that, right? If you haven't interacted, because the author doesn't interact with the copy editor.
Oh, yes, they do. I did. Yeah. When I was, of course, you get the copy edited text back and you go through it, and you're
that's like, the proofread one. There's another layer.
No, I've seen the copy edited version. You get it from the copy editor, and like I remember for Terra Nova sort of saying like, hey, I know I drop some articles. I do a lot of there's weird grammar. Don't be too nitpicky about this. And I had this whole conversation. And I remember for the Clover House, the copy editor, I was so mortified. She would say, I had dangling modifiers, and I was so ashamed that I had dangling modifiers in the Clover House. And she would write in the margin, unfortunate. and then she would explain the dangling modifiers. She would say unfortunate. The ship did not have a sandwich, or whatever it was. Right. But that was the thing. Unfortunate.
That's funny.
This is so mean.
But our authors are not interacting directly with the copy editors, going through us.
Okay, yeah, we do that. That's true.
Anyway, I wanted to talk. It's 12:15. I had planned on talking about how, and Trubik also talks about another way that publishers, create an identity around obviously the types of works that they publish, and we get this question, what are you publishing? And that we get books sometimes that we feel they're done, they're good, but they're not Galliot Press books. But we're going to keep that for another time.
Yeah, we'll save it for another time. Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, thanks to those who joined in person.
Yeah.
And we'll be
And
putting
whatever
up-
you missed, you can always go to the Substack page and get it later when it's up. Because I see we have a couple of people who just joined now. So
I know we try to be
happy you're
very
here, but
conscious of
yeah.
time and end at 12:15. So if you joined late, hopefully you can join us next time. And Kathy Elsick says, and now I can add, looking forward to being shamed by my copy editor to my the literary bucket list is vast.
Unfortunate.
On that note.
Yes. All right.
Have a good rest of the week, everyone.